So the main reason we're doing this commentary is because we feel this viewer has a misguided view on the term overrated. Now, as most of my viewers know, I have delved into this subject on multiple occasions, one which I am still fairly proud of, though I do regret a number of my decisions. However, I do have a clearer understanding of the term, as well as how to make sophisticated arguments, which I would like to share during this commentary.
Which leads us to our first real issue with the video.
And you have to admit, there are a few whose popularity just doesn't add up compared to what they're actually capable of in game, or just compared to other Pokemon. So today we'll be counting down the top 10 most overrated Pokemon in history. Before we begin though, what qualifies as overrated? Well, in this case, it's just Pokemon undeserving of their popular or even wildly unpopular status given the reasons people like or dislike them. For example, a Pokemon that's perceived to be strong based on how it looks, and people like it for that reason, but in reality it underperforms in battle.
You see, whenever you're trying to form any sort of argument, whether it be for teaching, discussion, or even debate, it is vital to define a term and tell what type of definition it is. There are about 10 ways to define a term, such as definition by experience, history, authority, or one of the most common, by textbook. Overrate, to rate or praise too highly. Now, this is not to be confused with popularity, which quickly leads to another problem within this video.
Or in the case of number 10, a Pokemon that is vilified for a particular reason, when there are plenty of other Pokemon more deserving of this criticism. You probably guessed it based on that description. Kicking off the list at number 10 is the most hated Pokemon in recent history, Trubbish. Why people dislike Trubbish is on the surface very easy to understand.
And this is the reason why defining the term properly first is so important, because we can easily bring up a counterclaim to this statement since we have another term, overhate, to hate too much. Because of this, I can easily make the argument that this particular entry should not belong on the list.
Trubbish is far from the least human looking or even grossest Pokemon design there is though. The Generation 1 Pokemon, Grimer and Muk, are literally based off of sludge, or decomposing feces, which is absolutely the grossest possible concept for a Pokemon to ever exist.
If the purpose of putting Trubbish on the list was to tell us that Pokemon like Muk should be criticized for the same shit that Trubbish is called on, then why not just put Pokemon like Muk on the list in the first place? You'd still be able to get your point across, and you wouldn't have to deal with people calling you out for putting such a generally disliked Pokemon on your list of overliked Pokemon. So, number 9?
No, 13. Of course number 9.
Number 9, Gardevoir. Gardevoir has been a popular Pokemon for many reasons, but somehow it ended up as the postermon for the Pokephilia community. For the uninitiated, there exists a small subgroup of Pokemon fans who don't just want to train and battle Pokemon, they want to date them too. Say what you want about these people, but it won't change the fact that they're out there. Almost any humanoid or even non-humanoid Pokemon can qualify as what they call a waifu. None seems more popular than the Generation 3 Pokemon Gardevoir. Mostly, depictions of Gardevoir in this community tend to portray it as a very feminine Pokemon, giving it breasts and feminine facial features. However, let's take a look at Gardevoir as an actual Pokemon, shall we? Not only can Gardevoir be either male or female, but in Japanese its name is the decidedly masculine Sir Knight. Its design isn't meant to resemble a feminine form wearing a dress, but instead a masculine magical knight. Its chest is completely flat, with no protrusions other than the red triangle that pierces its body. So sorry Gardevoir lovers everywhere, but your waifu is kind of a dude.
While you see Gardevoir as a more masculine Pokemon based on its concept, others see it as a more feminine Pokemon based on its design. It also doesn't help your argument when the Worlds line has a male-only evolution in Gallade, whereas Gardevoir has just as much of a chance of being either gender. Also, its name could very well be a reference to how Gardevoir will actually risk its own life to save its trainer's life. In fact, if you were to look up its Japanese name even further, it translates to "Come, my knight," reflecting what I just said.
Also, despite everything MasterTP10 said, this is another entry I don't feel belongs on this list. What does porn have to do with actual praise? Practically nothing except giving people more fapping material. I also have to say something. Online Rule 34, if you can think about it, there's most likely porn for it. But when it comes to certain communities, it seems like an allergic reaction. Look, you have every right to dislike it. However, I do find it more annoying that porn is the focal point, making such statements more annoying than the porn itself. There are far things worse than such imagery that might even be considered illegal, but generally, they get a free pass and never talked about negatively, but treat bedroom activities, which is none of your business by the way, as if it's a crime. Now, excuse me while I go back to Mindshao. Oh, Mindshao, oh, you're so sexy. But why do you have to be so overrated?
Okay, then can we move on?
Number 8. Whitney's Miltank. There were always some gym leaders that we had trouble with as kids. But none
For the
seemed to
most
be
part,
more
another
pronounced
video on
differences
Whitney's
than Whitney and
Miltank
her
from
Miltank.
someone by the
With
username
attacks
of
from all
KB
around
Madhouse
the
came up
trainer
recently,
unable to even
where he
defend
brings up both
themselves as
actual
they fought
strategies
each
to
other
use
her
against her
monster
Miltank,
daughter. But was she
but
really
also
that
other
hard?
Pokemon
The
games
game
that
actually
can be
seemed
just as difficult,
untough as
if
the
not
other
more
choices.
than Miltank,
From
yet are
often using
overshadowed by
opportunities
it.
to catch rock
Honestly,
type
it
Pokemon
explains
early
the
in the
anti-trend
game
of
for
Miltank
resistance to
being
physical
tough
attacks,
far
and
better
even
than
giving
either
you the
she or
opportunity
us
to
really
trade directly
could.
from a Machop and Goldenrod department store to give you a type advantage.
Hold up, I see a problem here. You're mentioning that Miltank isn't that tough with Machop, yet you showed evidence that worked against it. Look, if you're finding contradiction while searching for evidence, don't be afraid to change your claims. This is something that early debaters need to learn and understand that your first assumptions, most of the time, are going to be incorrect. If that's the case, feel free to seek out more evidence to back up your claim.
Additionally, Totodile learns Rage very early on in the game, which can be an effective way to take out Miltank if you let it build its Rage first while battling her Clefairy. Actually, her Clefairy was much more of a threat. With Metronome in its arsenal, it could end up using Spore, Confuse Ray, Thunder Wave, Swords Dance, Double Team, Leech Seed, Sacred Fire, or even Self-Destruct and Explosion. Now that is a pink Pokemon you don't want to mess with.
You're right. Via Metronome, it can learn Sacred Fire and Explosion. You know what else it can learn through Metronome? Splash.
And just to add to MasterTP10's point, if you're claiming Croconaw can build up Rage from Clefairy which uses Metronome, that's all luck instead of actual strategy. You have more of a chance to smokescreen to dodge rollouts than that method. Once again, even if it's not intended, it feels like you're only giving example out of one instance, which while making a case off of examples, you can't do that or the argument appears weak.
We're skipping number 7 because her segment on Magikarp literally talks about the very thing Magikarp exists for. For someone who tried to bring up Gardevoir's concept to defend its placement on the list, your lack of bringing up anything but Magikarp's concept really hurts your point.
We're also skipping number 6 because missing number doesn't even qualify as a Pokemon, and therefore also doesn't belong on the list.
Number 5. Mew. Mew has long had the reputation of being the rarest Pokemon in existence. It's been given the Phantom and Mirage Pokemon monikers, and it has inspired millions of rumors about how to go about obtaining this creature. It's amazing that this Pokemon was the one to jog so many kids' imaginations, and cause them to come up with so many strange theories about how to catch it, and yet it's actually the easiest to obtain Legendary in any Pokemon game, thanks to a very well-known glitch. In Red and Blue, there were not 1, not 2, but 3 trainers in Kanto that can cause Mew to appear when performing the aptly named Mew glitch. And on top of that, Pokemon duplication glitches were simple too. It was not uncommon to find kids with entire PC boxes full of Mews.
The problem I have with this is that it's not an official way to catch Mew. The point of the rumor was thinking that Game Freak has a secret way of obtaining, and this method was discovered by accident. Basically, cheating.
Not only that, but Game Freak has distributed over 20 different Mews in various countries, from 2005 to 2010, making it one of the most highly distributed legendary Pokemon ever. If you own Red, Blue, or Yellow and you've never had a Mew, odds are you're just not looking very hard for one.
But the point was that it was tough to catch, and people used to think like this. Part of developing argument is keeping up to date with your sources. If it's dated, the claim just goes invalid.
And when was Mew rare again? Oh yeah, back when Gen 2 was the most recent generation. Speaking of Gen 2, we're skipping her segment on Pichu. Why?
Because no one ever praises it.
Most evolutions. Something about Eevee and its many evolutions has made it one of the most popular Pokemon of all time.
When you think of Pokemon, what is the first thing that comes to mind?
Pikachu. Types.
Exactly. The point is that Eevee is a recognizable Pokemon to even people outside the fandom. In college, I had a colleague who got out of Pokemon in the 2nd gen, who said her favorite was Eevee because she liked the idea of forms. And as far as I'm aware, that's where the acknowledgement comes from. This is known as being a market success due to various reasons which aren't unwarranted. And once again, has to do with popularity, not praise. Eevee, in short, is just a very recognizable Pokemon with a concept only it has, which allows everyone to have a favorite. Which is why the fanbase seems large, and I don't feel unjustified.
But I personally have never really understood why it continues to be so popular. Sure, it's cute, But at this point, there are many cuter Pokemon out
Completely
there, like
subjective.
Stitty or Oshawott or Joltik or Victini.
Well, if you're to ask
and the
me,
majority
there's
of
only
them
one
aren't
Pokemon in that group
particularly
that's
exceptional
cuter.
in battle.
Victini!
Flareon, aside from its obvious weakness to the ever-present Stealth Rock, was given 130 base attack and nothing to do with it. It learns exactly 2 physical Fire-type moves, Fire Fang and Flame Charge, neither of which have high enough base power to be useful in late game or competitive. Not with other better physical fire attackers with better movesets to compete with anyway.
1. Who said it need to be used in late game to be helpful? I ran 1 through the entirety of Black 2. It was useful. 2. You're forgetting Baton Pass. In sync of the speed boost of a Flame Charge, or Curse making it a decent supporter and different from the Pokemon listed. 3. You're not highlighting its other stats, which Will-O-Wisp can accommodate for a poor defense and enough special defense to make a Pokemon a supportive, crippling side for NU teams.
And number 4, who perceives Flareon because of its battling capabilities? People like Flareon because it's cute and it uses fire-type attacks, and until the end of time, at least the latter will never change.
It's also quite slow, and without the bulk to defend itself with, that lack of speed often means it won't even get a chance to attack before it gets one hit KO.
Alright, I want you to take a close look at this. See how the HP bar didn't go down that much. Take note that the Pokemon shown is not burned and is using a physical move. You see how the evidence is contradicting what you're saying? Once again, if the evidence goes against your first accusations, then don't be afraid to change it.
Similarly, Leafeon's biggest problem is that there's just so many better grass types to choose from, both offensively and defensively. It also lacks the variety of status-afflicting moves that most grass types come equipped with, having only Grass Whistle and Toxic to choose from.
Alright, I got a lot to say here. The comparison of Sawsbuck doesn't work, since Sawsbuck is not known for taking a hit and is weak against fighting, a very common typing in metagame. Sawsbuck works a lot better as a sweeper, as Leafeon is supposed to be a kind of mix-up between both support and defensive properties, so the comparison does not work. Speaking of which, Grass-type support is not limited to powders. Leafeon has access to both Sword Dance and Baton Pass, with enough defense to make it helpful, as well as instant recover with Synthesis and Chlorophyll, a great combination. So basically, all these comparisons are completely irrelevant.
It's still an NU.
Shut up, it's underrated. Now get in the box.
Better than the Iron Man, I suppose. No matter, we're skipping to number 2 anyway. Don't worry, you're not missing much, it's just her missing the point of multiple evolutions.
Number 2. Most starters. At the beginning of every game, you're given a Pokemon, and that Pokemon is usually with you the longest out of any of the other Pokemon you catch for your journey. So it's only natural people get more attached to starter Pokemon than others. Unfortunately, this attachment comes with the added side effect of undeserved praise. It's not uncommon for starter Pokemon to end up being the most powerful Pokemon in most people's parties. They have a very fast experience growth rate, and as a result, end up easily overleveled when compared to most party members and enemy trainers' Pokemon. But let's be honest here, just because your Typhlosion can easily flatten Picnic or Best level 10 Hoppip, that doesn't mean it's actually a particularly strong Pokemon.
Yes, they are! Okay, they're not supposed to be Dragonite powerful, but whoever says they are? They're just supposed to be Pokemon that you get at the beginning of the game to keep momentum during the playthrough. The only ones ever praised for being more powerful than the other starters are Blaziken, Infernape, and Venusaur, mostly because of the competitive metagame, and, spoiler alert, she praises them for being more powerful than the other starters, giving even less of a reason for any of these starters here to be on this list.
On the contrary, the vast majority of all starter Pokemon out there are outclassed when it comes to battling. Much like the evolutions, the bigger problem with most of these starters in battle is just that there's always a Pokemon that can fill their role better than they can. They all tend to have mediocre stats and move pools that make it hard for them to even compete.
Let's go through these one by one, shall we?
Blastoise is a spinner, Cloyster is more of a practical sweeper. Meganium is a supporting tank-like Pokemon, while Vileplume is more of a crippling Pokemon. Sceptile is more of a sweeper, and Roserade is more of a supporter.
Feraligator's moveset is more physically based as opposed to Kabutops' support-based move pool. Typhlosion's a special sweeper, while Entei's a physical one. Oh, and by the way, Entei's a legendary, and legendaries are expected to be better than regular Pokemon. Same goes with Suicune and Empoleon, who, FYI, has a steel typing that Suicune can't beat. Gastrodon's only advantage over Swampert is Storm Drain. Give both of them the same abilities and see how Swampert would come out on top. Samurott is a standard sweeper while Slowking is a supporting tank.
Torterra is a tank that hits back, while Ferrothorn is simply a wall. Superior is a knack of all trades, while Abominasnow is basically for hail. These are completely irrelevant comparisons, and the only reason I think you're doing this is because you looked at Smogon, looked at the type, then decided that they were inferior, which I have against because having experience with Smogon, I know the basics. Tiers are only measured by usefulness and meta, nothing else. I feel Pokemon should not be compared like this unless they are very similar Pokemon you can obtain almost as easily as a starter.
And the #1 most overrated Pokemon is...
Is it Emboar?
Is it Unknown?
Is it Charizard?
Is it Reggie?
Charizard.
Reggie was a close
Yes,
second.
Charizard gets its own category outside the other starter Pokemon.
And I think we should stop here, because there's nothing really wrong with her Charizard segment, other than the fact that she uses anime footage for her points. It never actually brings up the anime as an argument.
The only problem I see is that she brought up an interesting point as far as the card goes. But why couldn't she do that with everything else? The fact that Meganium gets more criticism than anything else, bringing up what people already know Magikarp for, and probably the most important thing, looking up what overrated means.
Now to be fair to her, her video wasn't horrible. It's not like her points were presented in an overly pretentious fashion. It's not like she didn't do any research. It's not like she didn't try. I can safely say that I've seen, and hell, I've even commented on, worse lists about overrated Pokemon. With that said, it's all the backwards logic in this that gets to me. Whether it's trying to go against norms that really are against the point of the video, or completely agreeing with those norms. It's also safe to assume that this really could have used a little more work.
Overall, even though this video was guarded by good editing with, for the most part, appropriate visuals, I felt this was just plain rushed, jumped on too many popular viewpoints, made conclusions based off of first assumptions, and judging Pokemon by Smogon. Final thoughts, Meganium is now more overcriticized than Arceus. Speaking of Arceus, for the love of Arceus, quit kissing this woman's ass already.
After you defeat all
Nice to know you learned one thing in the past couple of months. Too bad learning to sit farther away from the camera is such a small detail in the grand scheme of making videos.
Or aren't always so challenging. As a matter of fact, some of them just aren't challenging at all.
This will come up later, and I will have a lot to say about it.
But some of them just fall short of the mark. But which Elite Four members are the worst in battle? With so many Elite Four members to choose from, there's no way I could have done this by myself. That's right, my special guest, TamashiiHiroka, who's also a huge Pokemon fan that's been doing Pokemon videos for years on YouTube.
And whose video quality seems to have dropped in recent times, judging by how bad the other quote-unquote collaborative top 10 list between you two was.
Is here to help me count down the worst Elite Four members. I'm going to be listing off my top 5 worst, and she's going to be listing off her top 5 worst.
Meaning it's just 2 top 5 lists put together to artificially make a top 10 list, and that we won't know who's number 10 and who's number 9 and who's better than who and so on. At least that's one less thing I'll have to cover in my final thoughts.
So, without further ado, let's get it started. I'm starting off my worst Elite Four picks with Chantal from Pokemon Black and White. She's a bookworm who always enjoys reading a good novel, like 50 Shades of Pokemon Gray. Since, you know, she's in Pokemon Black and White, Gray, oh never mind.
Oh, so you realized it was a stupid joke that you kept it in this video anyways. I understand that humor is subjective, but if you're willing to acknowledge that a joke is stupid, isn't that a sign that you should leave that joke out? Please don't make me play the Acroloth clip explaining that acknowledging a problem isn't the same as fixing it.
The Elite Four in Pokemon Black and White were some of the strongest members we'd seen in a while. However, Chantal just didn't seem to fit in with the difficulty of the other 3 members. She specializes in Ghost-type Pokemon, much like Agatha did in the first generation. But with Dark-type Pokemon like Crocodile on your team, you had nothing to worry about in this battle. Literally, all you had to do was spam Crunch, or any other powerful Dark-type move, and you would sweep her entire team very quickly.
The problem with your statement of using a Dark-type Pokemon is that good Dark-type options were limited in the Gen 5 games. What if you were using a different Ground-type on your team and didn't want to use Krookodile? You were stuck with either the Purloin line, the Scraggy line, the Zorua line, the Pawniard line, the Vullaby line, or the Dino line. Lightbird isn't very good, Scraggy takes a long time to train and evolve, Pawniard takes an even longer time to train and evolve, and you find it later in the game, Zorua may not be available depending on which game you're playing, same with Vullaby for different reasons. If Vullaby is available, you won't be able to get it until around the time you reach the final gym. Dino and Svilas can't be caught until Victory Road. I've used Svilas on my team to fight the Elite Four in White in the past. It was hard. And if you do want to grind it to evolve into a Hydreigon before taking on the Elite Four, good luck grinding it up to level 64. Also, even if you do use Krookodile in your team as your Dark-type mon to deal with Chantal's Ghost types, her Pokemon will give your Krookodile a hard time. Cofagrigus has Grass Knot and Will-O-Wisp. Grass Knot uses Cofagrigus' decent special attack, and Krookodile's special defense is fairly low, meaning it will hurt. A lot. And Will-O-Wisp will be a pain in your ass because burns mean your Crunch will do a lot less damage thanks to burns lowering attack, and Crunch using the attacker's attack stat to determine damage. And with how bulky Cofagrigus is already, there's no way your Krookodile is going to take it out in one hit unless you're over-leveled and or you crit. Meaning that Cofagrigus will probably get an attack in on you unless you get a critical hit. Its Grass Knot is replaced with Energy Ball in her rematch team, which has a chance of lowering Krookodile's special defense even further. Regarding Jellicent, not only is Jellicent part water, but it has Cursed Body as an ability, meaning there's the 30% chance that your Crunch spamming will come to a screeching halt for a few turns thanks to Cursed Body disabling the move. Golurk has Brick Break as an attack, and Golurk's attack stat is quite good. Krookodile will be in a lot of pain from that. Rematches replace Brick Break with Hammer Arm, which does even more damage, and it has Iron Fist as an ability, which makes it even more powerful. Chandelure has Flame Body as an ability, meaning that if Cofagrigus didn't get to burn Krookodile with Will-O-Wisp, attacking Chandelure with Crunch will most likely get it burned. And Frostlass becomes the new addition to Chantal's rematch team. Hi Blizzard! Her team in Black 2 and White 2 replaces Jellicent with Driftblim, but Cofagrigus and Golurk are still there to give you trouble. And Chandelure is made even more difficult to deal with thanks to Chandelure knowing Energy Ball. And in her rematch team in the sequel games, Frostlass comes back. I've used Krookodile on my team against Chantal. It was nowhere near as easy as you make it out to be.
At least Agatha had a little diversity with poison types like Arbok on her team. That way they weren't all ghost types. That made her more of a challenge compared to Chantal.
Agatha's team was not more diverse than Chantal's. Despite Agatha being a ghost-type trainer, the Ghastly Evolutionary line were the only ghost-type mons available at the time, and all three shared poison as their secondary type. You know what types Arbok and Golbat, the other two Pokemon on her team, shared? Poison! If you had a Psychic-type Pokemon on your team, you had no problems whatsoever with Agatha, since you actually could just spam Psychic and wipe the floor with her team. In fact, I would go further and argue that Agatha's team is less diverse than Chantal's, because all of Agatha's mons share a poison typing, which she's supposed to be a ghost-type trainer. Arbok was pure poison, and Golbat was part flying, which didn't do much for it since its fly-type attack move in the Gen 1 games was Wing Attack, which wasn't all that powerful, and it didn't have any offensive poison moves to take advantage of Poison's same-type attack bonus in the Gen 1 games. It got Air Cutter and Poison Fang and Fire Red and Leaf Green, and it evolved into a Crobat and a rematch team in those games while replacing Poison Fang with Sludge Bomb, but that really doesn't do much for it in the grand scheme of things. It may have gotten moves to help with Psychic-type mons in both teams, and it may be more powerful as a Crobat, but that doesn't change the fact that it's still weak to Psychic, Electric, Rock, and Ice-type moves, which you probably have most, if not all, covered in your team. Furthermore, all but one Pokemon on a rematch team continue to share the poison typing. That one mon that wasn't part poison in a rematch team? Ms. Drevis, which only makes sense given its pure ghost typing and that she's supposed to be the ghost type user of the Kanto Elite Four. Also, each mon in Chantal's team had a secondary type that no other member of her team shared with it. With the exceptions of Cofagrigus, since Cofagrigus is a pure ghost type, Banette, which was a second pure ghost type that she had in her first team in Black 2 and White 2 if you played through its challenge mode, and Miss Magius, another pure ghost type mon which she had on a rematch team if you played through Black 2 and White 2 on easy mode or normal mode. I'm detecting a bias in favor of the Kanto games here.
Plus, Agatha lives with graves in her room. Now that's hardcore. And Chantal? She probably lives with her collection of Twilight books.
Okay, even if this was just a stupid joke, I still have to say this. You know why Chantal's room is a dimly lit library? Because dark settings and atmospheres are a common element of horror novels and gothic novels, like Frankenstein, Dracula, and The Castle of Otranto, just to name a few examples. The Twilight series, in spite of their supernatural element, are not gothic novels, nor are they horror novels. And even if you only brought up 50 Shades for a stupid pun earlier on, I'd still like to point out that the 50 Shades books apply even less, since they don't even have a supernatural element to them. Granted, they are unintentionally horrifying, but that's another matter. Really, dude, if you're gonna crack jokes about how she allegedly has bad taste in books, at least use examples from the relevant genres. I'm a bookworm, can't you tell?
Number 5, Will. My pick for number 5, Will, has a lot going for him. He has a cool outfit, he's the first ever to represent Psychic types in the Elite Four, and he's got purple hair. But considering he's repping Psychic types in Gen 2, the ones he ended up with are a little disappointing. He has mostly Gen 1 Pokemon on his team, and the Gen 2 Pokemon he has is just Xatu twice. He could have at least tried out an Espeon or something.
I'll give you the point that Espeon or any other pure Psychic type Mon would have worked better in his team than a second Xatu. Even Girafarig would have worked better. At least then Will would have had a Mon with an immunity to Ghost type moves.
But instead, he's left with Pokemon we've seen before.
Okay, let's look at the Psychic type Pokemon that were introduced in Gen 2. Not counting the not-to evolutionary line since he has 2 Xatu on his team, nor Lugia and Celebi since they're legendaries. Espeon, Slowcane, Unknown, Wobbuffet, Girafarig, and Smoochum. Smoochum evolves into Jinx, so Will having a Jinx on his team actually works in that regard. I've already mentioned how Girafarig could have worked. Wobbuffet's style of fighting by pure retaliation is tricky to work with in the Gen 2 games. Unknown would be extremely difficult to use in battle since the only move it can never know is Hidden Power, and that move depends on individual values to determine its typing. It can be debated that Slowking would work better on his team than Slowbro, but the only difference is that Slowbro has a higher defense than special defense, while those stats are flipped for Slowking. And I already gave you credit regarding Espeon, since Espeon actually is a good pure Psychic type Mon. But regarding your complaints about how the majority of the Pokemon on his team are Mons we've seen before, that can also apply to any of the other Johto Elite Four members. You could argue that it doesn't work that well for Koga since only 2 of the 5 Mons on his team are Kanto Mons, but I would counter with the fact that Koga is a Johto Elite 4 member in the first place, given that he was the Fuchsia Gym Leader in the previous games. Also, of course Johto trainers would have Kanto Mons, given that all those Kanto Mons are obtainable in the Johto region! Never mind the fact that Kanto is literally connected to Johto, and that you go through the Kanto region after defeating the Johto Elite Four, so your complaints about Will having Pokemon we've seen before does not work.
Considering he's the first member of the Johto Elite Four, he doesn't really leave you with much new to remember him by. His sprite is almost just a recolor of Lorelei's, the first member of the Gen 1 Elite Four.
Male trainer, short purple hair, mask, funny suit. Female trainer, long red hair tied back in a ponytail, glasses, simple shirt and skirt. Totally a recolor, guys!
And he even has a Slowbro and a Jinx like her too. Will just kinda seems like they were in a hurry, so they gave Lorelei a different name and switched up as few party members as they could get away with to give the team a new typing. Not a great first impression.
You do realize that your complaint of supposed laziness could also apply to their use of Koga and Bruno as Johto Elite 4 members, right? Given that in their case they actually did just recycle prominent trainers from the previous games?
In Generation 3, Sydney is the first member of the Hoenn Elite Four. He's an upbeat person who enjoys what he does, even if he loses. He uses a team of Dark-type Pokemon. In the original games, his team was okay, but in the remake of Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire, with the introduction of Fairy types, Sydney became a total pushover, especially with Mega Evolution. All you really need is any Fairy-type Pokemon on your team that can Mega Evolve and knows Moonblast.
Complaining that any Mega Evolving Fairy type with Moonblast can sweep through Sydney's new team, despite the fact that any good Fighting type could sweep through Sydney's old team. The only Mons in his old team that have any counters against Fighting type Pokemon are Shiftry, who has Extra Sensory, and Absol, who has Aerial Ace. Even with that in mind, if you have Blaziken as your Fighting type on your team, Shiftry and Absol will still be dealt with before they can do any real damage, thanks to the fact that Blaziken is faster than Absol, and might be faster than Shiftry depending on its nature and or whether or not you bothered EV training it to boost its speed. There's also the fact that Shiftry and Absol have low defensive stats, meaning that even if either of them do get the first hit in, they won't last for very long, even if you're instead using Medicham, Hariyama, or possibly even Breloom as your Fighting type Pokemon instead of Blaziken. Blaziken can even take care of Sharpedo or Crawdont, the part water-type mon he has on his team. Sharpedo if you're playing Ruby or Sapphire, Crawdont if you're playing Emerald. Sharpedo may be faster than Blaziken, but even with Blaziken not being able to take many hits, I doubt Sharpedo's Surf will take Blaziken out in one hit unless it gets a well-timed crit. And Sharpedo's defenses are abysmal, meaning that any decent fighting type attack from Blaziken will take Sharpedo out in one hit. Crawdont is bulkier than Sharpedo, but it's also slower, meaning that Blaziken will get the first hit. And like with Sharpedo, unless Crawdont crits, Crawdont's Surf probably won't one-hit Blaziken. And if you're using a different fighting type Pokemon, Sydney is even more screwed since no other fighting types in Hoenn are weak to water.
And the battle would be over in a matter of minutes. You would have thought that they would have mixed up his team a little bit more to compensate for the new Fairy type. Instead, he became one of the easiest Elite Four members of all time.
You mean like how they could have updated Agatha's team in Fire Red and Leaf Green to account for more Ghost-type Pokemon and Ghost types actually being able to put up a fight against Psychic types, but still only had 3 of her Mons be Ghost-type and all but 1 Poison, and 1 Mon on each for teams not having to move strong against Psychic types? At least Sydney had 2 Mons each in his rematch team with Poison, Psychic, and Flying moves to cover all of their weaknesses.
Number 4. Bertha. Bertha, the Gen 4 Ground-type Elite Four member, actually has a lot of Pokemon I like on her team. Hippowdon, Sudowoodo,
which is a pure Rock-type Pokemon, meaning it has even more weaknesses, and it's not present in her Platinum team.
Quagsire,
which she also doesn't have on her Platinum team.
that other Water Ground type.
Whiscash, which is the sole Water Ground type on her Platinum team.
But her real crime, repetitive typings aside,
yeah, you know who else your argument of repetitive typing to type overlap can apply to? Agatha and Lance. Yes, you heard me right. Lance. The argument regarding type overlap of Agatha's Pokemon also applies to Lance. The Dratini evolutionary line were the only Dragon types available in the original games, meaning that he had to fall back on Gyarados and Aerodactyl to fill out his team, both of which shared a secondary flying type with Dragonite, meaning that all but one of his Pokemon are weak to ice, Gyarados being that one thanks to it being part water. Even if you didn't have an ice type on your team, chances are that you had a water type that knew Ice Beam, and you probably had an electric type or a Pokemon that otherwise had Thunderbolt as an attack to take care of Gyarados. Lance's situation really didn't improve in the Gen 2 games due to the fact that the only Dragon type Pokemon added to the Johto Pokédex was Kingdra. Lance does have an edge over Agatha, however. At least his non-Dragon type Pokemon all have draconic appearances to make them fit into his team that way, unlike Agatha's Arbok and Golbat, who are far from ghost-like and are apparently only on her team because snakes and bats are supposed to be spooky. Lance had a fairly prominent presence outside of the Pokemon League in the Johto games. Lance's rematch team in Fire Red and Leaf Green evolved one Dragonair and replaced the other with Kingdra, and his rematch team in Heart Gold and Soul Silver replaced 2 of his Dragonites with Salamence and Altaria, and his Aerodactyl was replaced with Garchomp. That said, it makes all but 2 of his rematch Mons in Heart Gold and Soul Silver double weak to Ice-type attacks. And those 2 Pokemon that aren't double weak to Ice attacks are Gyarados and Charizard, which he had on his initial team. Your complaints about repetitive typing applies to both Agatha and Lance, yet neither of them appear on your list, nor Brandon's list. How come Agatha and Lance get a pass, yet Chantal and Bertha were thrown in despite having less problems with their team than Agatha and Lance do?
It's just that she isn't very memorable. Elite Four members have a really short time to leave a lasting impression, which means that what little we have to go off of counts way more than it would for most any other NPC. From appearance to dialogue to party members, each aspect has to wow us for them to stick out in our minds, or else we'll move on and forget we even battled them.
You mean that a kindly grandmother type of an old lady who still doesn't hesitate to kick your ass in battle and probably did kick your ass in battle didn't leave a lasting impression? How high are your standards?
Unfortunately for Bertha, it feels like her sprite was copy-pasted from Agatha.
Never mind that Bertha looks a lot nicer and less like a mean old crone than Agatha does.
And her dialogue was copy-pasted from Karen, which doesn't leave much room for her to stand out on her own. With just her ragtag team of ground types to rely on for staying power, she ends up getting washed out in the sandstorm.
Are you serious? You're really just complaining about her sprite and dialogue now? In that case, why not complain about Lorelei, who didn't have any memorable dialogue, or Koga, who changed very little from his time as Fuchsia Gym Leader in the previous games, or Bruno, who didn't change at all from his time as an Elite Four member in the Gen 1 games to his time as an Elite Four member in the Gen 2 games?
Going back to the beginning, the very first Elite Four member we ever faced was Lorelei. She's a master of the Ice-type Pokemon, but the problem with her team was that she had mostly part Water types, which led to her having a huge disadvantage against Electric-type Pokemon.
Dewgong, Ice Water, Cloyster, Ice Water, Jinx, Ice Psychic, Lapras, Ice Water, Articuno, Ice Flying. It's inevitable that she'd have a lot of water types on her team when there were only 5 Ice-type evolutionary lines in the Gen 1 games, 3 of which were part water type, and 1 she wouldn't have been able to have to begin with because it was a legendary.
Because of this, anyone with a Raichu or a Jolteon,
Or Pikachu if you were playing yellow.
except for Jinx. At that point, all you'd need is a fire type to take it out.
Taking out Lorelei's team is not as easy as you make it out to be. You know what all of her part water type Pokemon have in common? They're all bulky. Although Cloyster's bulk is in physical defense, meaning it would be an easy takedown for electric-type Pokemon in the Kanto games. However, Slowbro's special defense is passable, and Dewgong's special defense is pretty good. Same with Lapras, which in its case is aided by its phenomenal HP. And Dewgong, Slowbro, and Lapras all have moves to give electric-type Pokemon a hard time. Dewgong has Rest, in the Gen 1 games at least, that was taken out in the Gen 3 remakes. Slowbro has Amnesia, and Lapras has Confuse Ray. Granted, it loses Confuse Ray and Lorelei's rematch team in Gen 3, but its bulk means it'll still take a bit of time to bring it down anyways.
At least after the Sevi Islands, they gave her a Piloswine to make her a little tougher, but that still doesn't help her too much, as she still has way too many part water types on her team.
And that Piloswine replaces her Slowbro, meaning every single mon on her rematch team is part Ice type. You could argue that they should have had Hoenn Pokemon to choose from, but even the Sevi Islands only have Kanto and Johto Pokemon. If you want Hoenn Pokemon, you have to trade for them. So of course the Elite Four's rematch teams won't have any Hoenn Pokemon. But even if they did have Hoenn Pokemon to choose from, the only real options she would have are Glalie, which is a pure Ice type, and Walrein, which is an Ice Water type. You could make a case for Cast Form, but then that Cast Form would need Hail in its moveset for it to change it to an Ice type since it's normal type by default. Regice is another legendary, so she wouldn't have access to that anyways, meaning that either way, she would have secondary type overlap either through part water or through the lack of any secondary type.
Number 3, Glacia. The Gen 3 Elite Four is one of my favorites. They're stylish, they're edgy, and Glacia is no exception. My only issue with her is the fact that while her colleagues might have a repeating species here and there, Glacia only has 2 species of Pokemon at all, the Snowrite line and the Spheal line.
Because they're the only Ice types available in Hoenn besides Regice.
Gen 3 to pick from, but maybe at that point they should have realized having an Ice type Elite Four member when you only have 2 Ice types in your regional decks was a bad idea, and just picked a different type and built a more interesting team for her. Even if they had gone with Grass type, she would have had more variety.
But a Grass-type Elite Four member arguably would have been an even easier battle. Despite Grass having more resistances than Ice, Grass also has more weaknesses than Ice. Also, if you're really relying on the small amount of Ice types in Hoenn as an argument for why Glacia isn't a good Elite Four member, then why aren't you complaining about Agatha being a Ghost-type Elite Four member and Lance being a Dragon-type Elite Four member respectively in Kanto, when Kanto only has 1 evolutionary line each of Ghost-type and Dragon-type Pokemon?
Glacia might have looks and charm, but an interesting team she does not.
You're missing 2 details about Glacia and about the Hoenn region that I think are quite important in figuring out Glacia's choice of team. You know why there are so few Ice-type Pokemon in the Hoenn region? Because Hoenn is a tropical region. You know why Glacia has an Ice-type team in spite of that? Because she's not from Hoenn. She's from a different region and presumably trained with Ice types before traveling to Hoenn. It can be safe to assume that she became an Elite Four member because, despite having very few Ice-type Pokemon to work with in Hoenn, she worked with the options she had and kicked many trainers' asses. And I think the Hoenn Pokemon League had another good reason to have Glacia, a trainer specializing in Ice types, as a member of their Elite Four. Like I said, Hoenn is a tropical region. With that in mind, I can imagine that there are plenty of Hoenn trainers who wouldn't give much thought on how to deal with Ice-type Pokemon because there are so few of them in the region. But to the Pokemon League, that doesn't matter, because as a trainer, you have to know how to deal with every Pokemon type, regardless of how rare they are. You see, this is the kind of stuff you think about when you keep in mind the fact that Pokemon, first and foremost, is an RPG. Players are meant to focus on the setting, world building, and characters first and foremost. Your complaints about Glacia completely miss the point of her character.
Flint from Gen 4 is a Fire-type master who looks like Ronald McDonald's long-lost cousin. Being a Fire-type master, you'd think he uses nothing but Fire types, right? Well, not in Diamond and Pearl. In those games he had a bit more variety on his team, with a Steelix, Lopunny, and a Drifbloom, which made him pretty challenging.
Yeah, despite being advertised as the Fire-type Elite Four member, only 2 out of the 5 mons he used in Diamond and Pearl were Fire-type. Do you really not see the problem with that? If they're advertised as using one type of Pokemon on their team, the majority of their team, if not their entire team, should have that type. So in that respect, adding more Fire-type Pokemon in Platinum and giving Flint more Fire types to work with is a good thing.
However, in Pokemon Platinum, they nerfed him to the ground, giving him all Fire types to battle with, leaving his team totally weak to any Water type with Surf.
Okay, they could have done better than to make 3 out of the 5 mons on his Platinum team pure Fire types, but there were very few choices of Fire type mons in the Sinnoh games. In Platinum, your only choices of Fire type mons were the Chimchar line, the Ponyta line, Flareon, the Houndour line, or the Magby line. If you're not against using legendaries, there's also Heatran, but that may or may not count since you can't catch it until after you beat the Elite Four, regardless of which Sinnoh game you're playing. If you're playing Diamond and Pearl and you want Flareon, Houndoom, or Magmortar, you can't get any of them until after you beat the Elite Four either, meaning that if you want to raise a Fire-type mon for your team early on but don't want Chimchar as your starter, you're stuck with raising a Ponyta and evolving it into Rapidash. Expanding the Sinnoh Pokédex in Platinum to include more Fire types to catch early on, and giving Flint a full team of Fire-type mons is basically Game Freak's way of admitting they made a mistake and fixing that mistake. I could see what they were going for, but their fixes in Platinum says they initially went too far with it. There still aren't many Fire-type mons, but you know why that is? Because Sinnoh is based on the northern Japanese island of Hokkaido, meaning that Sinnoh is a colder region than the others, meaning that Sinnoh isn't going to have many Fire-type Pokemon anyways.
It's like he went from being a Big Mac to a hot and spicy. It's just not as satisfying. Whoever thought this was a good idea really needs to be fired.
Chugga Conroy, you are not. Also, regarding your complaint about how they nerfed Flint by making his team all Fire types, they offset that by giving him a second mon that knows Solar Beam. Given that 2 of his mons know Sunny Day, and that his Infernape still knows Thunder Punch, his overall team can give Water types, Ground types, and Rock types an even harder time. So it's easy to argue that they actually made his team better.
Number 2, Bruno. Bruno, unlike most Elite Four members, got a second chance to prove himself. As a member of both the Gen 1 and Gen 2 Elite Four, he has twice as many lines and battles as any other Elite Four member. And how does he use this precious extra chance for an impression? By saying basically the same thing both times and being the shortest and easiest battle in both of his Elite Four lineups. Bruno, Bruno, Bruno. Most Elite Four members would kill for the screen time you got, and you squandered it.
Really? That's all you have to say about the Elite Four member that's taken up the number 2 spot on your list? That he wasted his screen time and was an easy fight no matter which game you played? You didn't even complain about his teams, and that actually could have made for a really good argument to use to explain his placement on your list. Unlike Agatha and Lance, Bruno had no excuse of not having enough mons of his type to choose from. Each Elite Four member in Gen 1 had 5 mons on their teams. Bruno had enough to choose from that he could have had an entire team of fighting-type Pokemon. Replace his 2 Onix with Poliwrath and Primeape. There you go. It's only worse in Gen 2, given that he still had 1 Onix on his team. He replaced the other with Hitmontop, yet he kept 1 despite having the choice between Primeape, Poliwrath, and Heracross to replace it. Even if the only fighting-type moves Heracross could learn in Gen 2 were Counter, Reversal, and Rock Smash, that doesn't change the fact that it's still a fighting-type mon that Bruno could have chosen for his team. Yet he still kept that damn Onix. Also, how did you miss the fact that thanks to Chuck, another fighting-type specialist being one of the Johto gym leaders, Bruno's return to the Elite Four was completely redundant? Granted, that would also rule out both Lorelei and Agatha coming back due to Price and Morty being Johto gym leaders, but they couldn't have come up with a new character, possibly related to one of the Johto or Kanto gym leaders, that used a different type? They could have used a trainer that used ground, rock, water, electric, grass, or fire. But nope, they just took the easy way out and brought Bruno back. Even in his rematch team in Fire Red and Leaf Green, he kept both Onix and evolved them. At least in Heart Gold and Soul Silver, he got rid of that other Onix so his rematch team had all fighting types. This is only saying to me that you and Brandon didn't bother doing any sort of research to put together this list. And we still got their number 1 picks to get through. This is gonna hurt.
And my number 1 pick for the worst Elite Four member is Malva. Everyone should have seen this one coming.
Are fucking kidding me? Are you seriously picking an Elite Four member from X and Y to put at the top of your list? We haven't even gotten Pokemon Z yet. We don't know what they're doing besides giving Zygarde more forms, and as far as we know, they can also be fixing stuff they messed up in X and Y, including making the Elite Four members more challenging battles, and maybe doing more stuff with Team Flare. I thought you two were jumping the gun in your top 10 worst X and Y Pokemon list, but this just removes all doubt. You really should have waited until the third game to make this fucking list. Damn you people!
The Pokemon X and Y Elite Four were by far the easiest to beat, especially for someone with an all-fire type team like this. Her entire team can be knocked out by a good water type with Surf, even without Mega Evolution. Now if that isn't easy, I don't know what is. This is the same problem that all fire type trainers have.
I already explained why your argument that Flint is a crappy Elite Four member was bullshit, but go on.
It reminds me so much of how easy Blaine was in Pokemon Red and Blue.
And they made his team more challenging in Yellow. Did you forget about that?
But this is an Elite Four member. They're supposed to be a challenge, not pushovers. These people aren't elite at all, and they don't deserve to be there. I hope that in the next new Pokemon game, they bring back the challenge.
So you're acknowledging the possibility that they might get better in the new game? Then why did you put Malva on your list in the first place?
Because I was very disappointed with how easy all the Kalos Elite Four were. All of them really deserve to be on this list.
Let me explain something to you. You know why the Kalos Elite Four seems so easy compared to the Elite Four of other regions? Because the EXP share was changed. In Gen 1, it was an item called the EXP All that shared experience equally between all party members. However, it meant that even mons that did participate in the battle didn't get as much EXP as they would have if you didn't have the EXP All with you. Also, unlike subsequent generations, any Pokemon that didn't participate in the battle didn't gain the stat experience, otherwise known as effort values, that it would have gained if it participated in the battle. Meaning that if you used the EXP All, it was impossible for underleveled Pokemon on your team to play catch up with your higher level mons. Also, if you wanted to raise a team quickly in Gen 1, you were better off using the Missing Number glitch to get a fuck ton of rare candies and stat boosting vitamins and speed raising your team that way. From Gen 2 to Gen 5, the EXP share was a held item, meaning that sharing the EXP points gained from beating various trainers would only apply to one Pokemon at a time, and that Pokemon happened to be whichever Pokemon was holding the EXP share at that time. Starting with X and Y, however, the EXP share was changed into a key item that you could turn on or off. When it was turned on, every Pokemon in your party that didn't participate in the battle gained half of the EXP and all of the effort values that mons who participated in that battle gained. So it took the best of the EXP All and the previous incarnation of the EXP share, meaning that there's no real downside to leaving it on all the time. Meaning that you, like many other players, probably never had the EXP share turned off. Meaning that it's very easy to overlevel the Pokemon on your team. Meaning that by that late in the game, your team is probably overleveled to the point that the Elite Four would be an easy takedown. Really, your complaints about the Elite Four being too easy just calls to attention a bigger issue with X and Y. If you leave your EXP share on all the time, your team will probably be overleveled, and as a result, the game will be too easy. If you leave the EXP share off, however, your team will probably be underleveled, and as a result, the game will be too hard. Good luck if you want to find a nice middle road, because finding out the perfect on periods and off periods is practically an art form you'd have to master, and it would take up too much time. You might as well just deal with the fact that X and Y unintentionally give you two difficulty settings, easy mode and challenge mode, without presenting a good middle ground. Really, you're just skirting over a much bigger issue with those games, and turning the Kalos Elite Four into scapegoats. Knock that shit off!
But at the end of the day, Malva to me is the weakest Elite Four member.
So basically what you're saying is that the sole factor you looked at when putting together your worst Elite Four members list is how powerful they were in battle? Oh, never mind how they present themselves as characters, or how many of them actually did shit outside of the Pokemon League, like Lorelei, who had a role to play in the Sevii Islands in Fire Red and Leaf Green, or Flint, who appeared outside of the League building a few times in Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum, or Caitlyn, who was the head of the Battle Frontiers Battle Castle in Platinum, Heart Gold, and Soul Silver, or Malva, who used to be a member of Team Flare and also works as a Holocaster news reporter. Maybe we might find out more about Malva in the new game. See, there is absolutely no reason for Malva to be on this list, much less at the top of this list, since there's still so much we could potentially find out about her. So really, this just says to me that you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. So how about you do us all a favor and...
Shut the fuck up!
And my number one least favorite Elite Four member is Siegebold.
Excuse me for a moment. Dear sweet Arceus, are you fucking sick?
Let me tell you something about the Gen 6 Elite Four. It sucks. Nobody has more than 4 Pokemon.
You mean like the Unova Elite Four when they first started out?
It's one of the only ways in the post-game to grind for levels and cash.
Just money grind at the Battle Chateau or Lumio City's restaurants. It's much easier. Did you know that?
There are no Pokemon centers in the first 2 towns of the game after you finish, so you have to walk your ass to Aquacord just to use the PC box and get a Pokemon that can fly.
Oh, boo fucking who, you gotta run through more areas in order to access the nearest PC and get a flyer. Not that big a deal, you petty bitch.
Just so you can go back and fight the same battles over and over and over again.
You can make similar arguments about the Elite Four in Red, Blue, Yellow, Gold, Silver, Crystal, Ruby, and Sapphire. Having to walk to Viridian City, Cherry Grove City, or Oldale Town if you don't have a flyer on your team, and the Elite Four actually being the only viable option for grinding in Red, Blue, Yellow, Ruby, and Sapphire, and one of the few choices outside of Red and the Trainer House in Gold, Silver, and Crystal. It wasn't until Fire Red and Leaf Green that the games gave the Elite Four new and more powerful teams for rematches to make leveling up your Pokemon an easier task. Also, Battle Chateau. You have more trainers to battle, the levels of their teams vary widely to allow for the use of different level mons in battle for the purposes of leveling up your team, and you can make more money in a shorter amount of time.
No one in the Chaos Elite Four is particularly a joy to battle, but Siegebold takes the cake for most irritating of them all. Every time you battle him, he asks you if you consider Pokemon battling to be an art, because he simply can't say. If you say yes, he agrees and talks about how artful life is. If you say no, though, he throws a fit and insults you. What a pretentious jerk. Why even begin with the premise that both answers are equally valid if you can't handle it when some kid doesn't validate your precious opinion?
Is this really all you have to complain about regarding Siegebold? And yes, his name is pronounced Siebold, not however the fuck you've been pronouncing it. Also, if all the different fan-made challenges such as Monotype runs, Nuzlocke runs, and Avatar challenges have proven anything to me, it's that Pokemon battling can indeed be seen as an art form. Also, let's not forget the obvious answer of, Pokemon is a series of video games, and video games can be considered a form of art.
It doesn't even matter what I actually think about Pokemon battling being an art or not. Just the way he reacts if you don't stroke his ego is enough to make me say no to him every time just to make him mad.
If you think Siebold's a jerk because he goes off on you if you say Pokemon battling isn't an art form, and you repeatedly answer no to his question just to piss him off, then what does that make you?
So those are our opinions on the top 10 worst Elite Four members. Which ones do you guys think were the worst? Let us know in the comments section below.
At least you're allowing comments unlike Tamashi, so points there I guess.
Make sure to go check out her channel as well. The link to her channel will be in the description below. Thank you all for watching, this has been Brandon and I'll see you in the next video.
Hello YouTubers, Tamashi here. You might have noticed I haven't been uploading super frequently.
Wow, Tamashi looks a lot like Sarky.
But I like
That
to
explains so much, actually.
Starting today, I'd like to get back to doing weekly uploads. So give or take maybe a week in December for Christmas or something like that.
Okay, I understand wanting to be with family for Christmas, so I have to ask, why bring light to you coming back to a weekly upload schedule before that break? Wouldn't it be better to explain that you're starting this after this break, so you and your subs can get used to this new-ish schedule?
And another thing, it's a very common practice of YouTubers to make update videos, but they leave it at update videos rather than put it with another form of content for the channel. Yes, it's a quick update, but I'd rather see an update to this in a main video rather than filler. If you plan on updating the subscriber base, use it on one of your big videos, like countdowns or theories, since that's what they subscribe to your channel for in the first place. A majority of subscribers don't watch every video a content creator creates. a vast amount of your subscribers are going to see this and say,
"This isn't what I came here for. I came for Pokemon-related commentary material."
And close the page. And with the current YouTube demographic of minutes watched that ruins most YouTubers for their reputation and content overall, TLDR, don't update in a clickbait title, people won't watch.
I'm going to be uploading every week from now on, so I'm ready to come back full time. I took a little bit of time off just because I got super burnt out uploading twice a week for so long. But now I've had some good rest, I'm just coming back.
And before she gets burnt out again.
Remember that minutes watched thing I said earlier? Well, you should, since it was a couple seconds ago. Someone bored at the 40-second mark is not a good sign.
Did you remember to bring the booze? I kind of feel like I need them already.
So today, I figured why not come back with a little Q&A. The Pokemon Company has sent me more Pokemon cards for me to unbox for you guys. So while I unbox these, I'll be answering your questions. So the cards I'm going to be opening today are the Pokemon EX Beyond the Ordinary tins.
So this is all unscripted. Well, now I understand how this is 12 goddamn minutes long. Distracting yourself with Pokemon cards is not helping. Also, don't most people who want to watch unboxing videos want to watch it for the things being unboxed and the personality of the unboxer? With you focusing on the Q&A, there goes one of the two criteria out the window. And I hate to say it, but I have more charisma than you do.
So are you maxed out? I know, you wanted to get with Yukiko on your New Game Plus, right?
No! Noto is best grill!
So all you have to do is make unthoughtful countdowns and read conspiracy theories of Pokemon on the internet for them to send you stuff? If that's the case, then hold on, I need to make a top 10 Ubisoft games video. I'll be back in literally 2 seconds. Damn it, it's hard when they make only 3 good games.
Were they all Rayman games?
You forgot Child of Light, but yeah.
Remember the 1 per franchise rule, so more like 2.
And I thought I was being original.
They sent me 3 of them, so let's open some. Aaron Sissy Monster Sailors asks, "Hey Tamashi, are you going to get the new Pokemon game, Super Mystery Dungeon?" I wasn't planning on it because I'm not super into the Mystery Dungeon games as it is, and they haven't been super great for a long time, but I've heard really good things about this one.
Okay, why the hell isn't this scripted? A Q&A is the easiest thing in the world to write a script for, so tell me why you're doing this without one. Unless, of course, you just wanted to get this out so you could line your pockets with Fantard money. Ha! Like you would ever do that.
From now on.
Also to add, excuse me? Pokemon Mystery Dungeon not being good lately? They had one flop in terms of games, and that was Gates to Infinity. And even that game had very polished graphics and was an enjoyable title. Are you forgetting the wonderful games we have gotten, such as Mystery Dungeon, Explorers of Time, Darkness, and Sky? Games that are adored and held up to such a high regard some OOT fanboys are scared of questioning them.
What the fuck is an OOT?
Don't you know what an OOT is?
How can you not know what an OOT is?
I remember being blinded by nostalgia back when OOT was a thing.
I'll let you know I graduated top!
And a lot of my friends are playing it, so I might get into it. If I don't get to it, it's just because so many great games have come out this month as it is that I'm already kind of backlogged.
Backlog.
You play more than Pokemon?
Burn the heretic!
She shall burn for these crimes against Pokekind!
She also turned me into a newt! I got better.
But it does look great, and I hope it's good, because a lot of people do like the Super Mystery Dungeon series. Or the Mystery Dungeon series.
Okay, see? Retakes are your friend.
Retakes killed my family. And my newts.
I said I got better.
This is an Ancient Origins pack. We got Eevee, Oddish. What is that?
Is it broken pacing? It sure seems like it to me.
Yeah, a little too broken. You know what isn't broken? Carlito!
Cool.
Jump cuts are 2012, please. My eyes need transition to the one known as Tamashi.
What? Teleporting is fun.
Yeah, but I can complete my thought without flying around the screen like a post-9/11 maniac.
The planes were flying more than the people.
Yeah, they were more falling than flying.
Hey, at least they learned how to speed read.
Hard to read when your ankles are on your mind.
You say that, but at the end of it all, they at least had a smashing good time.
Charlie Bam asks, do you think you'll ever make a video like Games for Girls?
If I can't understand you, or are deaf, I can't tell what the question is. Easy way put the question on the screen, please! Or is it on another social media you don't want public? You know the point of social media?
Gregarious. Breeding or nesting in colonies.
No, that's the wrong social! Oh, okay, let's use a different definition.
A network of social interactions and personal relationships.
See, social's about public eye, or in other words, just give me the damn question!
Also, if it's not too personal, did you experience sexism when you started making YouTube videos, and if yes, how did you deal with it?
Thus the clickbait title!
Content, especially that of a sensational or provocative nature, whose main purpose is to attract attention and draw visitors to a particular webpage.
C-class, learning is fun.
Teacher, this is boring.
Well, if you don't learn, you can't be anything. Except a Pokemon YouTuber with little to no regards for subs' opinions in the comments section.
Well, Ash, unless their subs talk, they could turn out to be evil, soggy kneists!
I just realized that misogyny is about massaging knees. Come on to my misogyny parlor. Only $1.50. That's right, only $1.50 for me to gently caress your lower thigh.
Thanks, Tamashi. I would like to make more videos like the Games for Girls video. The biggest reason that I wanted to make that video in the first place is because...
Money! Gotta get those sweet, sweet SJW and anti-SJW dollars.
I know she's bad, but I didn't think she was a Nazi.
SJW. I said SJW.
Ah, those SJW warriors. I understand the redundancy. It's a joke, get it?
Do I have to cut a bitch for explaining a joke?
Don't take away my ice cream, pervert!
Though a lot of people are starting to play Games for Girls for YouTube videos, they're kind of doing it more from a comedy standpoint, and while that's fine...
I know we haven't mentioned it yet, and praise to the PokéGirl God, it hasn't been that bad yet, but 2 words! Pop filter!
Aren't most LPs in general done for comedy? That doesn't mean they don't appreciate my girl games. It just means that they found that specific instance of a girl game funny. Also, I like how you apply the label of girl games when it only applies to a small minority of games of an age demographic that doesn't play games for quality. Compare My Little Pony Pinkie Pie's Party. Ugh. And Hot Wheels Track Attack. Ugh. And you'll see they're both games catering to a market that still thinks the other sex has cooties.
Also implying girl games are strictly for girls?
Excuse me, I'll have you know I identify as Pony Female Tribal Linguistic Pokekin, and you have ruined my little religious cult started back in 2069. By the way, do you have a time machine on hand?
It kind of provides kind of a narrow perspective on the whole genre of games, and there's a lot more there that just isn't being discussed.
Genre of games? Okay, this is a problem of being unscripted. Are you talking about games as a genre of media, which is the wrong term? Or are you talking about girl games being its own genre, which can be seen as sexist since you're lumping a vast array of games in one single pile because it's marketed towards girls?
Narrow perspective? Genre of games? Did you graduate at the Capcom College for broad, exciting terms? Retakes are a valuable asset to add to your arsenal of creating content that viewers will enjoy. So use it!
This will be of much help, I can assure you.
Hey, you bought the buy all assets, Soren. Wait, never mind. You don't have the undo skill.
God damn it!
Hey, I can buy it.
Fuck you! Look, I know I'm a one-take wonder, but you, ma'am, are not. So stick to scripting and not ad-libbing, or in layman's terms...
I need a verb, a noun, and an adjective.
How about fuck Karen and sexy?
So, part of the reason I wanted to make the GFG video to begin with was just to fill in that gap and offer some actual critique and criticism of these games that isn't just, haha, games for girls are bad.
So riffing something means you also can't bring up legit criticism of something? Shit! Soren, we've been had!
Well, Zara, this whole year you've been on YouTube has been a lie. How does it feel?
Could be worse. I could be Silver Keyblade's Twitter, which is at Silver Keyblade. Go follow him, by the way.
I'd pay $7 to follow that shit!
But you're not a full-fledged commentary yet, so you only have 6 doll hairs.
I can still make this work.
So I'm pretty excited to make some more GFG type videos. If nobody else enjoys them, I like making them and I think they're super interesting. So I was planning on continuing making more along those lines, probably not quite so in-depth, just because that video took me like 3 months, 2 months to make.
3 fucking months?!
That took you 3 months?!
To put in perspective, this video we are working on took
2 months if you remove all the lost days of Zara being a lazy shit.
And that's a decently long time to have worked on it honestly.
The botcom on you only took 1 month to edit.
I've worked on Let's Play projects and even a movie that took less time than a countdown?
So if I'm going to be uploading weekly again, I can't do that.
Hey, let's talk about Chugga Conroy. He uploads daily and his content is still well edited. For a Let's Play, that is. And he has enough time to thoroughly research the game he LPs. If he can do that and keep a consistent schedule unless he gets sick, then you can do the same, especially since, unlike Chugga, you have editors!
Not only that, but he also manages another channel with him, NCS and Proton John.
Wait, I just realized. We're still riffing her! No!
It's gonna be kind of hard to transition into that. I'm not gonna stop doing the Pokemon videos either. It's just that since I'm super interested in this topic right now, I might make GFG videos for kind of a while, and then I'll go back to doing the Pokemon ones, and then it'll be a mix of both.
Oh, so that's why you didn't make this a proper update video. You made this like this so you wouldn't lose your fans who only care about your Pokemon shit.
Retakes! Retakes! Retakes!
Soren, I know this is our eternal torment, but you don't have to get so angry at it.
It's the button of a camera and the patience of a fucking ape, and that's all it takes!
Just to expand my repertoire of videos, so the channel isn't changing.
Expanding repertoire, i.e. making new videos people might not care about, but I'll shoehorn it in to see if they care. Oh wait! I hate criticism, so I probably will do whatever I wanted to do in the first place anyways!
It's not changing, except it is, because you literally said that you were stopping making Pokemon videos until you're burned out on bitching about your made-up villain called the Patriarchy.
No need to panic if that's not what you subscribe for. The other stuff will still be here. As for if I experienced sexism when I first started making videos, well, not really actually.
Well, not really? Then why the fucking title? What was the reasoning behind dealing with sexist users in all caps, rather than Q&A with Tamashi, or something of a similar matter? Don't you dare argue for ratings, since a lot of well-known YouTubers make a series devoted to Q&A that usually has Q&A in the fucking title! Big example is Revenge of the Q&A by Jesse Cox, or maybe wonderfully titled Q&A with Dodger or Dex Bonus or Press Heart Too Many Names, where, guess what? The title isn't responsible for the content. The content is responsible for the content. I think I might be done fucking clickbait!
Are we done here yet?
Were you sitting there and eating fucking popcorn?
Yeah. Hey, I've got to do something with you stealing my job.
It's sort of interesting because the majority of people in the world are actually nice people, so you don't start attracting the jerks until you grow to a decent size.
Wow! I've gotten falsely accused of being a homophobe, being a sexist, being a stalker, and being a pedophile. I must be pretty popular to receive such accommodations. Wait, I'm not popular. So what I'm getting at here is everyone gets this shit sent to them. Grow up.
I think the way I experience sexism today as a YouTuber is kind of more subtle.
Subtle. In other words, something you shouldn't be able to notice. Guess white knights must be holding doors open for you. Damn their subtle misogyny!
Subtle! Yup, very subtle. So responding from criticism with "I block you" is subtle? Well then I must be the most subtle guy for shopping butt naked. No one will question my subtlety.
Setting up for your RedTube career?
Nope. eHarmony. You know how many people get high and watch cheese be grated with a sexual motion? That'd be me, just shopping, looking at the produce section with oohs and ahs as the background track.
Let's just get back to the torture, Kay. I need something to get that image out of my mind. Permanently.
It's not like blatant, like she's a girl, don't watch her.
I thought it was, this girl makes shit videos, don't watch her. Not every insult is misogynistic, no matter how much you warp your perspective.
I can name countless girl gamers that have been told they're just a girl, don't watch them when it comes to certain views. You know how many people have just shrugged off Dodger's valid points to games when it comes to the many podcasts she's been on? 'Cause, oh, she likes weeb shit, therefore she's a girl, therefore she doesn't know anything, therefore...
People like this still exist. It's just that since you say you have subtle sexism, you've never experienced actual sexism.
It's more like people might have some cognitive bias where they take me less seriously because I'm a girl and in a male-dominated space.
Pseudoscience is fun, isn't it? Citation, please. I would really like it if you gave something in the description. I know that's more work than you should be doing for this type of video, but as someone you're stereotyping, i.e. a male who likes Pokemon, I want fucking sources that show I have a cognitive bias to dismiss you because you're in a male-dominated space. Sounds to me like you're generalizing thoughts based off of nothing. Oh, by the way, nice buzzwords truly are an amazing wordsmith that was passed down throughout the ages!
From what I see, Pokemon YouTubers tend to best be girls based on the stereotyping of girls like cute games, and Pokemon can be extremely cute. Not trying to be misogynistic, but it's just your point is flat out invalid when channels like yours are trying to appeal to that demographic. In short, you just said your subscriber base thinks you should not do what you do.
And seen as an outsider who might not know what they're talking about. And admittedly, sometimes I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm not perfect.
Yes! She finally admitted it! Oh, happy days! We can finally go home!
But I thought she was Miss Pokemon of the Poke Pageant of SJW Warriors.
But I think people are much more likely to discredit me for that, where if I was male and I made some kind of an error or had some kind of dumb opinion, people would be a little bit more like, well, you're dumb, but it's not because you're a dude, you know?
Yeah, no. Just no. In fact, fuck you. You're not bringing up shit, so I'm not either. Automatic assumptions that the audience will take you more seriously if you're a guy is stupid since your male clone, a branded in the past, is also regularly mocked. Also, can I say how telling this is that you're using such blanket statements? Ever heard of projection? Because this makes it come off as if you're the one who values males' opinions more than female ones.
Nah. Hey, I'm not the only one who rants. Yay!
Have you seen my videos? I specialize in ranting in my commentaries.
We got...
Oh, she's opening more cards! You know what that means. Just so you know why we're skipping this, do you see unbox in the title? No.
Ricardo Matias asks, what would you recommend and advise for anyone who wants to start making videos on YouTube and eventually get paid for it?
Oh god, this is gonna hurt.
Not asking you! Before she even starts, here's my advice. Do what it is you love on YouTube. If you love Pokemon, make countdowns or commentaries or Let's Plays, whatever it is you love. This will start what is known as the placebo effect on your audience. The idea of something rubs off on another when subjugated to said thing. Easiest explanation I could make. But yeah, if you want to do YouTube, do it. Make your content the way you want to make it. I bet there's at least about 1,000 people that'd like what you make due to how many people there are on the internet nowadays. But back to Tamashi. This YouTuber has been known for bad, or at least misinformed, countdowns of things that are all to attract attention since she stopped trying a long time ago. Now it is a problem of getting into YouTube or even maintaining a subscriber base due to YouTube's evolution over the years. Older channels start to fall off and whatnot. But there is no reason for clickbait titles and stuff just to attract views, especially since the YouTube algorithm has changed since January 2013, making it that views don't count compared to minutes watched for income or ad placement. In other words, please don't take what she says in stone, or you might be in for a bumpy ride on the YouTube coaster, which people do ride!
Can I speak again?
No!
I don't want to say that you're getting into it for the wrong reasons, because any reason to make a YouTube account is pretty valid, but...
Soren, your RedTube porn dream can now finally come true!
Yes! Produce aisle, here I come!
I would say that you're setting yourself up for disappointment if you're getting in for it solely to make money, because at the moment, YouTube is a lot harder to break through than it has ever been, and it may only get worse from here.
Except when it comes to the general statement of make money. It's actually not that hard. All you need is a subscriber base of at least 300 or so, and you can start making money. Let me put it like this. If I, of all people, can make pocket change, so can anyone as long as they make content they'd want to watch.
To give context, I have a follow base on Twitch, and due to donations have made some change myself. It all comes down to entertainment value, and who can say no to this face?
With a sea of people and videos out there, it can be really, really hard to get yours noticed, especially when you're just starting out. So, I'm afraid I don't really have any advice, because when I got started, you couldn't even make money off of YouTube. I guess my advice is always just look for something that doesn't exist yet. Like, for example, the GFG videos. There wasn't really anybody talking about games for girls from a critical, analytical standpoint.
Quality of her videos aside, you unoriginal bitch, you stole from Sarky!
Somebody wants to watch a video like that about that topic, mine is the only one there. Well, maybe not the only one, but the only one I know of that's out there. And, so you kind of have to think outside the box if you want to stand out, because you can get successful, I guess, mimicking what's really popular.
It's just like how you got popular by stealing from Jay-Wits.
But it's hard to hold on to that, because you're just going to be chasing bandwagon after bandwagon, and you'll never really get very far if you're just like the second best Markiplier, or, you know...
Or the 9th best Jay-Wits.
The knockoff JonTron or something like that. So, not that you can't be inspired by people. Everyone's inspired by something. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that you have to really,
I know I sound like Beatles Revolution number 9 right now, but retakes!
You're starting to get creative with reusing this joke.
Innovate. And make people come to you for something that you can't find anywhere else. Next pack is an EX Primal Clash.
More Carlito!
Me, wanna, you wanna, everybody wanna, go.
Gomu asks,
Okay, we can commentate here, right?
Nope, it's an ad! Back to Carlito!
Actually, I skimmed ahead. We're ending this here.
This is a very annoying due to quality control or lack thereof, and clickbait video that is looking like it's Tamashi's plea for more subs or a fresh start. to her channel in which she should have just made an update video like a sane person. Don't believe me? Just look at the 2 ads in the Q&A video with a clickbait title, "This spells I need more cash." I just don't think it should have been made in general, since she has a Q&A series on her channel, with every video either private or comments are disabled. Thus no criticism can hurt her childlike Poké-ego.
Tamashi, this is the second time I've covered you, and you've not improved. While yes, this video is unscripted, I feel like Q&A should be scripted, since you could very easily say something you'll regret later. Like that shit advice you gave your fans, or advert to that site once it's defunct in a year. Oh yeah, and this random schlock you'll regret once you grow up a bit. Now, I know you won't watch this video since we're not popular enough, so I'll keep this short. Learn to take criticism, learn to edit, learn to script, and learn to brain!
Hey Pokemon fans, Tamashi here. When X and Y first came out, I made a top 10 list of my favorite new Pokemon from that game. Since then I've had time to really marinate on the newcomers, and figure out who I really love and who I really don't. So now that I have a little perspective, it's time to count down my top 10 least favorite X and Y Pokemon. But there's a little problem. The Kalos Dex is really small, and I personally don't have more than 5 I dislike. So today I'm going to call in some help from a PokéTuber who's known as a Brandon to the past. We'll each pick 5 of our least favorites from the Kalos Dex, and alternate explaining what they are and why we don't like them, to add up to a full top 10.
If both of you couldn't think of more than 5, then how could this possibly be a well-organized list? You would have to debate and discuss the entries, so wouldn't that invalidate your intro since you would have gotten some new perspective on these listed mons? Unless you just merge the 2 lists together, then, well, your list would have no sense of proper progression. If you just did that, then why not just have them as 2 separate top 5, since, you know, there's no actual rule to the amount of entries?
So without further ado, let's get started. Number 5.
Didn't you just say this was a top 10 list?
Any of these Pokemon very much, if at all. So it was really difficult to make choices for this list.
Then why make it a worst list? You imply that these Pokemons are the ones you have big problems with. If you don't have many problems with them, then don't make a worst list. Just make a top 5 list of Gen 6 Pokemon I'm not all that fond of. Unless, of course, you're just trying to stir up controversy with this topic so the better Pokemon YouTubers don't continue to overshadow you.
You're already stretching to find problems with a lot of these mons, and you needed someone else's top 5 just to artificially make it a top 10 list. And saying you don't really dislike any of these mons destroys the foundation of this entire video.
Even if we were deciding to judge these Pokemon based on them being objectively the worst Pokemon in Generation 6, why is Sylveon there? According to Smoggin, Sylveon is considered OU, thanks to the combination of its great special bulk, viable move pool, and access to Pixelate Hyper Voice, whilst fairies like Aromatisse, Carbink, and Slurpuff are all in lower tiers. Sure, this reinforces that this is a list of least favorites, but that makes your title a misnomer. Or, if that's somehow not the case, and this is a list of the objectively worst Pokemon in Generation 6, you're wrong.
What I ended up with were the 5 that I liked the least out of only 70 or so Pokemon, and even then I don't dislike any of these that much. Kalos had a really solid dex, more so than most generations, so picking the few that I don't like as much as the others was tough. But since I had to choose...
No, you didn't. You could have easily chosen not to make this video. Your channel, your videos, you do what you want with them.
Sylveon just so happened to make that low cut.
Jesus Christ, that was the definition of padding. That entire last few seconds had nothing to do with your entry, so it's not like you absolutely needed to keep your explanation for that in. Hell, it comes off as a repeat of what you said in your intro statement, thus making it even worse in the regards of padding. Since you could have easily made what you just said your intro statement, since it's better stated than what your statement actually was.
Evolutions in general aren't really my favorite as a group, simply because they're too gimmicky and they only really get more gimmicky as time goes on. I tend to enjoy them as individual Pokemon, just not part of the evolution brand, so to speak.
How are the evolutions a gimmick? I could maybe see that for why Eevee can evolve to 8 different types of Pokemon, but that's only a gimmick within Pokemon lore, not in the Pokemon themselves, especially not in the individual evolutions.
You mean to tell me that having so many different options for what to evolve your Eevee into isn't appealing to you? You mean you don't like the idea of being able to use an evolutionary stone to evolve your Eevee earlier on, unlike many other mons that evolve via evolutionary stone needing to wait until later levels, or else they lose access to the good moves in their level up move pools?
So you like them as Pokemon, just not as a group. The fuck? You do realize that the quote-unquote branding does not affect the quality of the mods in the slightest, and that this retarded idea that the evolutions are gimmicks should theoretically blend over to the Pokemon themselves since they are still connected to that gimmick even when judged as individual Pokemon, right?
At the very least though, the previous evolutions at least all look good together next to each other. They had unity in the similarity and simplicity of their designs. Sylveon just doesn't have that, and it sticks out like a sore thumb.
But Sylveon's design isn't more complex than any other evolution. Yeah, you could argue that its flesh ribbons makes it more complex, but then you have to exclude Glaceon from the evolution line since she has those things coming out of her head. Or Jolteon since he has no tail and must scream. Hell, I could make the argument that Leafeon is the least simplistic of the evolutions since she has various tufts of fur sticking out all over her, making her harder to draw. And look at her tail too, that's not something any asshole who picks up a pencil could draw. And don't get me started on Umbreon circles!
All of the other evolutions have something that make them stand out from the others. Umbreon's design has elements taken from non-canon animals and beings of legend, e.g. the moon rabbit. Espeon has a forked tail that makes it resemble the Nekomata. Vaporeon has fins which make it more fish-like compared to the others. And Leafeon is more plant-based to match it being a grass type, just to name a few. So how is Sylveon so different from the others?
Because Sylveon's girly, and that makes her an affront to women's rights!
I will end.
The shape of its body is different from the others. It's taller and has a flat face with huge eyes, rather than the pointed, more fox-like snout of its predecessors.
No. I checked, and while Sylveon's height of 3'3" is the tallest an evolution can go to, Sylveon's not alone in that. Vaporeon, Umbreon, and Leafeon are all just as tall in-game. Your example for comparing the evolution's height is one screenshot from the anime, which has always been a bit fictitious of how tall Pokemon can be. Doesn't help that said screenshot shows Sylveon being closer to the camera than the other members, so depth perception is going to be a thing.
Yeah, bigger eyes than the other. Did you even look at that screenshot before you had your editors edit this for you? Look at Umbreon, Leafeon, Flareon, and Vaporeon. They all also have larger eyes. And also, about that face complaint, Leafeon and Flareon also have flatter faces similar to Sylveon. And it does have a fox-esque body. Do you even anatomy?
I understand that Sylveon is special now because it's the newest of the group and it was the first to represent a new type.
Ignoring how Umbreon was pretty much the first Dark-type Pokemon introduced.
But what are they going to do when they have to introduce new ones later and Sylveon still sticks out and clashes with the rest of the group?
Nice pointless hypothetical. Here's another pointless one. What if the next ones introduced are more similar to Sylveon? Are you gonna pitch more then, too?
Is every new evolution from now on going to break the mold and have a strikingly different look and anatomy? If so, they won't have the same harmony as a group anymore. Their family photos will just start to look cluttery.
You just explained why Sylveon looks so different from the others and why it works for it. It's a fairy type! It's supposed to look different. It's supposed to look otherworldly. You know, like a fey creature would! It's different enough to fit the fairy type mold, yet similar enough to the other evolutions to fit in there. So I fail to see your problem.
Also, that family photo you got there, it ain't the best. I mean, Pikachu's there.
Fuck you, Pikachu is the best evolution of all time!
I can deal with Sylveon on its own, but as a part of that heavily marketed group of furballs, it is really disruptive and breaks the unity.
Well, I guess I know the answer to my hypothetical.
Number 5 for me has got to be Dedenne.
It's pronounced Dedenne.
Get your foreign out of here! We only speak Murican here!
Kalos is based on France, so excusez-moi for thinking it's a French pronunciation.
I thought it was pronounced Dentadin!
Don't drop that da-da-da. Hey, don't drop that da-da-da. Don't drop that da-da-da. Don't drop that da-da-da. Don't drop that da-da-da. Hey.
Dedenne is one of the new fairy-type Pokemon, but doesn't it look familiar? It looks like Raichu and Hamtaro got together and had a baby. It's just another Pikachu and Raichu clone. Did we seriously need another one of those?
Meryl, Plusle, Minun, Pachirisu, and Emolga are all Pika clones, yet I don't hear any complaints about those. Just saying, you really can't just complain about the one when several are guilty of adding to the Pika clone roster.
Unless he does, and it's only talking about Duntana because Gen 6, but with no mention on any of the other ones, I don't blame anyone who questions this bound of possible hypocrisy.
It's a mouse. There are a lot of them in the real world. You know, the thing almost all mons are based off of. So of course there'd be a fuck ton of them in the Pokemon world. Look, Brandon, I know you're one of those stereotypical Smoggin fags, but let me try and get this through your head. Mons that exist to fill out the world and make it more fleshed out and real are not bad. Let me guess, Furfur's on this list because it's not competitively viable, right?
I mean, we get it, Pikachu is the mascot Pokemon. We don't need a billion Pokemon that look similar to it in its evolution.
Because there's only one type of mouse in the real world, right?
Great, compared to the other fairy types out there. Not only that, but Dedenne can't even evolve, so its stats can't get much better either.
Alright, let's just save that here, and...
Maybe one day it'll be able to evolve and become a better choice for battle. But until then, I'd have a hard time using one on my team.
There's only one single part of the game's various features to determine the quality and use of a Pokemon. Never let me do that again.
Number 4, Pyroar. Pyroar is an awesome Pokemon, and I was honestly shocked that it didn't exist sooner.
Calls Pyroar an awesome Pokemon. Puts it on worst list. Flawless logic. 10 out of 10. A+, 100 out of 100. Best list. Best list.
It can carry its weight on a team. Really, the only problem I have with Pyroar at all is the fact that it got kind of an odd choice for a hidden ability. Like I said, I really don't dislike many Kalos Pokemon, so I had to really stretch to find a flaw with this one.
If you have to stretch this much to get a point, don't make it a fucking list. What's not to get? You don't need to make this a list in the first place, let alone a fucking making it a top 5 and you have to stretch this much for a fucking spot.
So anyway, Pyroar's thing is that it has high special attack, but its hidden ability is Moxie, which raises physical attack every time a Pokemon with Moxie knocks out a Pokemon. So were the folks at Game Freak just not paying attention when they decided on this?
Hidden abilities aren't always better for the Pokemon. Sometimes it is, but all it's meant to be is just another option. Sometimes an ability is a hidden ability because Game Freak wants a Pokemon's 2 main abilities to be one thing, but want the possibility of other builds for a Pokemon.
Well, they weren't paying attention at first when they gave the Ladyball line Swarm as an ability when it wasn't even able to learn bug moves via level up or TM until Diamond and Pearl, and even beforehand in Ruby and Sapphire, the only bug move it could learn was Silver Wind, via breeding. This is far from the first time Game Freak dropped the ball.
Implying Pyroar can't go mixed.
But that takes work, and work is hard.
I will strength!
Pyroar has quite low base physical attack, and it really doesn't learn an awful lot of useful physical moves. I suppose it's possible to raise a mixed attacking Pyroar, relying on the boost from Moxie to power your physical attacks, and knocking out the first few Pokemon with special only, but I've never seen anybody try it, so I don't know how that would work out. If you've ever run it, let me know how it went.
Yeah, Moxie seems strange for Pyroar, and yes, its attack stat isn't that good, and yes, a physical or mixed build for Pyroar isn't ideal, but at least you can make both work. It's not like Flareon's hidden ability of Guts that can only work if it's poisoned or paralyzed thanks to the fact that Flareon can't be burned. Refer back to what I said about Game Freak dropping the ball in the past. Also, if you're really looking to hidden abilities as a factor, there are plenty of other Kalos mons that got screwed by their hidden abilities, or got hidden abilities that were redundant. The Scatterbug line, Friend Guard, an inferior version of Telepathy which already only works in double and triple battles. Skittle line, Grass Pelt, only works in grass or when grassy terrain is used, meaning it's very situational and hampered further by the fact that the Skittle line can't learn grassy terrain. Dedenne, Plus, can only work in a double or triple battle if one of its partners has plus or minus as an ability, of which only 11 Pokemon can have those abilities, and all of them are weak to ground. High Earthquake, Pancham line, Scrappy. Sounds good in theory, but Pangoro is part Dark type, and both mods in the line have access to Dark type moves. Noibat line, Telepathy. Only works in double and triple battles, and is inferior to its regular abilities thanks to Telepathy being mostly used for Earthquake, which the line is already immune to.
My number 4 pick is definitely Vivillon.
It's pronounced Vivian.
No, it's Dentana!
No, I'm pretty sure it's supposed to be
Okay, I'm done with you two.
If you like Butterfree and Beautifly, then you're going to love Vivillon, as it's pretty much the same exact thing. Yep, that's right, another Butterfly Pokemon, even sharing the same typing as well. The only difference here is that Vivillon is a gimmick Pokemon that can change its wing patterns to make it look prettier, which is neat, but it doesn't help it in battle. Its weakness to Stealth Rock and common attack types, together with it being frail in general, means that Vivillon is prone to being revenge killed, and it's hard to get on the battlefield in the first place. Even though its Pokemon number 666 is anything but badass or evil, it's more of a collect and adore Pokemon. Besides that, it's pretty much useless.
I love how in my segment going over different Kalos Mon's hidden abilities, I gave a better reason for Vivian being on Brandon's list than he did. Not only is Friendguard a crappy hidden ability, but its regular abilities of Shield Dust and Compound Eyes are actually pretty useful in battle, and its hidden ability just makes those two abilities look that much better by comparison.
One thing I noticed, all Brandon does is complain that these Pokemon aren't competitively viable, when these Pokemon aren't meant to be like that. Even if you want to make the argument that there's a metagame that Game Freak intentionally built, I can counter that with Pokemon's main genre. Pokemon is an RPG first and foremost, so of course they would focus on world building with having some Pokemon that aren't competitive. Oh, boo-hoo, your fucking butterfly can't compete with a dragon. Of course it can't, because in universe and story, it's a fucking butterfly!
Even with all that, it has a strategy on smiling for the UU tier. No you.
Number 3, Avalugg. Poor Avalugg. This is pretty much the only Pokemon from the Kalos Dex that I think of as Dex filler. I can't help but think there must have been some way they could have made an iceberg Pokemon look a little cooler than what's essentially just a table with legs. Icebergs can be deadly, and they've caused catastrophes at sea for as long as humankind has explored it. But not Avalugg. Avalugg is a pure ice type, which gives it only a single resistance and a ton of weaknesses. To top it off, it's extremely top-heavy, with absurdly high defense and attack, but almost no special defense or speed. I suppose that makes sense for an iceberg, but they could have tried a little harder to make it functional. Fortunately, though it is susceptible to entry hazards, it can at least use Rapid Spin. So with some determination, the thing doesn't have to be completely useless. It just seems like a bit of a missed opportunity. They've made cool Pokemon—
Hey, don't think that ice pun would go unnoticed!
That pun wasn't very ice.
Guys, chill!
Murder!
Based on all sorts of natural formations before, like volcanoes—
Camerupt. Well designed. Shoot me.
Pad Pokemon looks cooler than this, but just not Avalugg.
You brought up Avalugg's ice typing and its defensive problem, and brought up its high defensive vulnerability to entry hazards, yet you didn't address the arguably bigger problem with it having such a high defense and low special defense. It has a high defense when 3 out of the 4 types that ice is weak to are primarily physical attacking types, yet even they have access to special moves. So really, its high defense doesn't mean all that much. Not to mention that any decent fire-type special attacker can take out Avalugg in one hit. Granted, that's if that Avalugg doesn't have sturdy as its ability, which it can have due to it being its hidden ability. Yes, it delays the inevitable, but it also gives it a chance to at least do a world of hurt on that Firemon, because as you pointed out, it has a high attack stat. What 2 powerful physical moves that can do a world of hurt on fire types can Avalugg learn via TM? Earthquake and Stone Edge, meaning your complaints hold even less water and that the only viable complaint you have about Avalugg is its frickin' design!
Water melts into ice! You just made another pun, you
As for my number 3, I've chosen Gogoat. Gogoat is another Pokemon that I think was only made as a gimmick. Most likely the only reason they created this Pokemon was so that players could ride around on it in certain areas of the game. It was never meant to be amazing in battle. The Grass Gym Leader had one as his ace Pokemon, and it was one of the easiest gyms in the game.
As the grass-type gyms tend to be.
Even though experiences can vary from person to person, and you don't give any light on said experiences.
When you're given the weakness to it in the beginning of the game, yeah, it tends to be easy. $10 as he swept with Delphox.
20 on Charizard.
50 on Blaziken.
100 on Emboar.
Okay, I know a guy who'll solve our little stalemate here.
Yeah, just give me a second. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Yeah, just sold to the guy in the avatar. Okay, they're breaking it. Okay, just sorry, the heretics are at the door.
Wait, Henry's not even in, Bob. How could he participate?
Why am I a judge when I'm a ghost?
That doesn't answer anything.
Exactly.
Answer the question, damn!
Gogoat typically has an easy time setting up against most teams. Its low speed stat is its main drawback, as it leaves Gogoat susceptible to most revenge killers. Along with this, its move pool isn't very good.
Last I checked, Gogoat's move pool is actually pretty good. It learns Earthquake and Aerial Ace via level up, and Brick Break and Rock Slide via TM to help a bit with type coverage.
And leaves it very predictable, which can cause problems for Gogoat. There are many better grass type choices out there, and poor Gogoat just doesn't cut the chase.
Are there better grass types to use on a team? Yes, but Gogoat can still pull its weight. Also, you didn't bring up either of its abilities, which would have worked as a good criticism. Sap Sipper is a good ability, but it requires Gogoat to be hit by a grass-type move. When it's already a grass-type Mon, not many Mons will be attacking it with grass-type moves, and I already explained why Grass Pelt doesn't work for it. Seriously, I'm doing a better job explaining Go-Goat's flaws than you are, and I'm not even trying!
We're skipping the Zygarde segments and just basically jumping the gun on it. In spite of news that could relate to Zygarde, which she even brings up, she ignores that and puts it on the list anyways because it's not as good as Xerneas or Yveltal.
So in other words, you really should have waited until Gen 6 was almost done before making this list. Okay then, moving on.
My number 2 pick is definitely Furfrou.
Damn, that is one fluffy Zygarde.
Didn't we just say we were gonna skip this?
X and Y had a lot of gimmicks going on. One of those, of course, is Furfrou.
Sir, I do believe that's a Zygarde you put up on the screen. I suggest you get a new pair of glasses.
You can change its hairstyle to whatever option you want. I mean, girl, just look at that hair. He's fabulous! The perfect Pokemon to use in a beauty contest.
And there's the reason it fucking exists. You fucking retard. It's not a competitive Pokemon because it's a Pokemon that was bred to look good. Kind of like the animal it was based off of. I will repeat this until you get a 3-year Adamantium Skull. Just because it's not competitive, that doesn't mean it's bad. Now, about earlier. Oh, TP and Gale, you two owe me money.
But would you ever really use it in battle? That's right, it's time to get down and dirty. The wave is coming off. In battle, Furfrou receives competition from other normal types, but it has a bit of an advantage thanks to its high speed and its fur coat ability. But the problem is that its attack isn't that high. Furfrou is easily walled by most common physical walls, and can't really use purely offensive sets.
And why would you want to use a purely offensive set for it to begin with? Given how it can still fill a support role on a team thanks to the support and status moves it can use, Sand Attack, Baby Doll Eyes, Charm, Cotton Guard, Toxic, Double Team, Attract, Thunder Wave, Swagger, etc., and the high speed stat it has allowing it to attack first with those moves a lot of the time, it can still have a spot on your team. Granted, there are better support options and better normal type mons to have on your team, but Furfrou is not bad enough to warrant a number 2 spot on this list. Also, nice job with your game footage of throwing out a level 13 Furfrou against a level 68 Clefable, because that's totally a good reference.
If the reason for putting it here is because there are better normal types, then why wasn't Feraligatr on your worst starters list since Gyarados is better than that? Sorry, wrong commentary.
TP, let it go.
Shut up, Frozen!
Its normal typing is also a problem. Because of that, Furfrou is left with no resistances. And even though it has a ghost immunity, most ghost types can still deal with Furfrou just fine. Not to mention that Furfrou doesn't really have a reliable recovery, which means that it gets easily worn down in battle. So if you're looking for a good tank, there are many better options than this.
Then use it as a lead. It's got the speed, it's got U-turn, it's got status move, it's got good bulk. It just needs a good trainer. So, probably not you.
And my number 1 least favorite X and Y Pokemon is Diggersby.
Diggersby?
Diggersby.
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 Diggersby!
Aw, that was my favorite transition.
But Diggersby, though.
Can Diggersby be my new transition?
It has huge power. You see these fucking arm ears, son? He'll reach all the way back and slap the shit out your mama.
Okay, then.
Before I get into this one, I'd like to reiterate that the following is simply my own personal opinion and perspective on things.
She thinks the opinion card can protect her from people pointing out her batshit insane reasoning.
It might be just your opinion, but guess what? That doesn't mean the information backing up said opinion can't be questioned. If the premises are bullshit, the fact that the conclusion is being presented as just an opinion doesn't make the conclusion any less bullshit.
And I am in no way intending to speak for anybody else. I realize and admit that my biases inform my opinions of things.
And that automatically invalidates what you say, since you admit to not being able to separate your biases from actual fact. Please start to think. It's unbecoming of someone with your subcon to be so retarded.
And if you disagree with me, that's perfectly valid.
And that's why you close the comments. You can disagree with me as long as I don't have to see it. Jesus Christ. Why do people like you again?
This is simply my own interpretation of a few designs of a few Pokemon.
Honey, sometimes the currents are just blue and you could, and are, just seeing things that don't exist.
And I'm not trying to cast shade at their designers and imply that anyone who worked on the game had sexist intent.
Which is why they said the design's perverted, sexist, and or degrading to women's. Yeah, because calling it a design that sure doesn't imply that you think that, heavens forbid, you actually think your words through before posting them online.
This is a criticism based only on my own personal thoughts and feelings, and it's cool if you don't agree. With that out of the way, on to number 1.
I'd rather jump off a cliff while taking silent while shooting myself than watch you scramble to blame the patriarchy. But do go on.
Whenever I'm discussing Lopunny and the reason I don't like it, people tend to ask me, hey, why aren't you offended by Pokemon like Machamp? Isn't that also a sexualized design just based on men? And my answer is always, well, that's a false equivalence. Men don't have a problem with being portrayed a majority of the time as a sexual object.
You don't know how to word, do you? Men don't mind? Oh, nice assumption there, Captain Asswipe. You do know that there are a lot of women who think the idea of objectification is dumb. Does that mean you can't complain about Lopunny anymore? Also, this isn't a false equivalence because guess what? It's still fucking objectification of the male body. But hey, I guess in the land of Tamashii, as long as no one's complaining, it's not a problem. How do you have fans? I'm being honest here. How can any rational person tolerate the sheer hypocrisy? Also, just FYI, you could easily be construed as misandric because of your shitty beliefs. Just saying, you might want to invest in some first grade reasoning classes in the future.
Yeah, it happens, but there are lots and lots and lots of male or masculine characters with a wide variety of roles, body types, and representations, especially in video games.
And the same can be said for female characters, so shut up, you brats.
The same isn't really true for female characters, which is really the only reason I see Lopunny as a problem at all to begin with.
So because you're too stupid to play more video games, it's a problem for a design. Fuck it, I'm done.
And the Machop family isn't exactly overtly sexual either.
Chiseled abs, only a Speedo, psh, not sexualized at all.
Zerarick, aren't you supposed to be dead?
Fuck it, apparently I can't die.
No more so than your average WWE character. My interpretation of both Lopunny and Machamp is that they're representative of male power fantasies, rather than one being a fantasy for men and one being a fantasy for women.
So what you're saying is that it's a power fantasy because of your worthless fifis? Oh, how human of you. Fuck it, going by your logic, Bayonetta isn't a power fantasy because she looks sexy, despite being a capable mother and able to kill angels. Oh no! Fetishists take a humanoid thing and fab to it. That obviously removes the fact that Lopunny is all things considered a decent Pokemon. Fuck you, fuck your ideology, fuck your fans, I don't care anymore.
Lopunny and Machamp aren't gender equivalent to the same principle.
They're not the same, even though you literally just call them both power fantasies. GG.
I'm in the middle of a diatribe here.
Screw you, I wanted to get a word in.
Ignoring the interruption, no, they are equivalent because they are both decent Pokemon, both are sexualized by fetishists, both can be male or female, both are seen as ideal bodies in some form or another. So in other words, you're a faggot who can't think to save your life.
I mean, not to speak for every lady, but Hulk Hogan doesn't exactly do much for me.
Yep, let's just ignore others so your bullshit narrative can be preserved. That's the proper feminist way. Also, John Cena, he's sexualized. Every woman's straight for Cena, every man's gay for him.
If you're gonna bring up wrestlers for the sake of sexual fantasies, wouldn't it be better to use Shawn Michaels for your example? His theme song is literally called Sexy Boy for crying out loud.
Fuck you, TP, I'm ranting here.
Fuck you, Zerarick, I'm helping my vastly superior WWE wisdom.
Yeah, no.
Kaden, aren't you supposed to be dead?
Phoenix down.
Oh.
So, let me tell you why you were wrong. Okay, for anyone who doesn't know, I am a pro wrestler. If you don't believe me, here is proof. One of the issues people in the industry have to deal with on a daily basis is having an appearance and, at times, having sex appeal. The major concern for people running shows is getting butts in seats at any cost. Controversy, a big name, or a big guy. This can lead to a wrestler having to put up with painstaking situations that can end up damaging them in the end. Be it having to go through major lengths of giving yourself that image like injecting themselves with steroids a la Buff Bagwell or Brian Cage, or having to train all their lives to get to that image alone like Cesaro or John Cena. Let alone the amount of hoops and ladders you have to terrain through, like literally putting up your body for display, doing embarrassing and downright stereotyped gimmicks, or worst of yet, having to keep up with an image to appease to the females in the audience even if you could really care less. The major thing you seem to miss is this is not just a male power fantasy, this is also a female sexual fantasy. Even if you are speaking for yourself, you don't speak for the class. There are plenty of women and men who are attracted to these types of bodies in men. Okay, to break character and talk about something way in my past, I remember one time talking to a wrestler while I was a referee. He knew I wanted to be a wrestler and gave me some advice on my appearance. He told me to keep my hair short, never dye it, never get piercings, get in extremely good shape, and never get tattoos. Other than the getting in shape part, I wanted to do all of that. He said this would bring women to the audience so it could bring men into the audience. I never wanted to hit a stereotype. I wanted to do my own thing. This thought almost ruined me to the point of worrying about my appearance on a daily basis. This is one of the things that thankfully is dying in the industry. Problem is, people like you are ignoring that this is really a problem and are making it hard for this mindset to leave because it is just a male fantasy and some of the guys are hot anyways and I don't care. Women has only the problems! So I have some advice for you. The next time you try to use an example, try not using an example that won't fuck over your one-sided narrative, dumbass.
Can we finish this already?
I'd argue that a closer gender counterpoint to Lopunny would actually be Diggersby.
Cause a fat bearded thing sure is sexy.
That's my cinnamon roll. Please keep it away from the pink.
For one thing, they actually seem to be designed intentionally that way.
Lopunny is a more slender figure, what with it being a kicking Pokemon and such, while Diggersby is a Pokemon that relies on its ears to work, thus it's fat. There's also coloration, eye design, fluff design, mouth. How the fuck are they similar in the slightest?
Rabbits. That's why.
I knew Realm was onto something with his rabbit technology.
Oh my god. It's the Poopinator! He's onto us!
Considering they're both humanoid rabbit-based designs, with feminine and masculine characteristics respectively. But for another, the implication here is that masculine things are not attracted by nature.
Or we can look at how his ears are cranes, his stomach's about, and how he's a fucking construction worker!
Yep, let's just ignore the Mon line and the Hitmon lines, cause fuck logic, narrative is more important.
Here's the feminine thing. It is pretty. It even wolf whistles at you in case you don't get the message that this is the object of desire in question.
Curtains! Blue!
Is at you. It's lumpy. It's conventionally unattractive and undesirable. This reinforces gender roles of both men and women in terms of who is the sexual object, and I feel like that's actually a lot more harmful to men than if Diggersby was just a sexualized male humanoid rabbit thing.
Fuck you, I'm swallowing dynamite. Finish the commentary without me, I'll be back for the final thoughts because I'm sure this explosion won't kill me.
So, if you're waiting for me to be picking a nit over a representation of masculinity for once, there you go.
First off, Cheek Pouch is a good in-battle ability. Giving it any sort of berry will make it last longer in battle no matter what the berry does normally. Second, Pickup is a good ability outside of battle. It allows it to pick up various items in the overworld when you're traveling, meaning it could pick up a lot of items, especially if you keep it in your team as an HM slave, which is what a lot of people use it for to begin with. Third, Huge Power is a great hidden ability for it. It has access to a lot of decent physical moves and can make a good physical attacker because of that ability. Furthermore, its fucking design is not supposed to be based on a fat, lazy slob. Think about it. Diggersby. Digger. It's part ground type. It looks a bit like the Hiker Trainer class, and it could very well take inspiration from construction workers and other blue-collar types, meaning it's nothing like the fat, lazy slobs you think it's supposed to represent. Finally, I call bullshit on putting an HM slave on a worst Mon list, much less at the #1 spot. The fact that it's an HM slave gives it a lot of out-of-battle utility, and its huge power hidden ability means it can be a surprisingly good physical attacker, meaning it's already better than a lot of HM slaves to begin with. Therefore, it can't be bad, much less one of the worst Kalos Mons. In summation, shut the fuck up, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
And my #1 pick is Pumpkaboo. This one's a bit personal.
Dude, cover up. No one wants to see your bias.
Pumpkaboo, because I love Halloween and Ghost-type Pokemon. But when I finally caught one, I was very disappointed. First of all, it was weak to 5 different types of Pokemon.
Ignoring how the typing is also shared by the Trevenant line, which was also introduced this generation, the typing also provides immunities to fighting in normal and resistances to the ground, electric, water, and grass. There are more move types it's good against than there are move types that do it ill, especially since ground, fighting, and electric are all really common on many teams, and while fire, ice, and either ghost or dark are, the flying type, not so much.
Second of all, it had a very crappy move pool.
Crappy move pool? Flamethrower, flame charge for the faster ones, rock slide, gyro ball for the slower ones. Trick or treat, despite your complaints about its naming, is a good move for it since it'll make the opposing mon vulnerable to its ghost type attacks. Worry Seed changes the opponent's ability to insomnia, which is good for those scrappy mons. And that's not getting into the moves it has access to once you're able to evolve it into Gargeist. Please, tell me again about how Pumpkaboo's move pool is crappy.
And third of all, you had to trade to get its evolution, Gorgeist, which isn't any better.
Seems as good of a time as any to pull that clip out.
Not only that, but Dedenne can't even evolve, so its stats can't get much better either.
Yeah, so when Duntadun can't evolve to improve its stats, it's number 5. But when Pumpkaboo can evolve and can improve its stats, it's number 1. Logic? What the fuck is that? If you're gonna complain about Gorgeist just being as bad as Pumpkaboo allegedly is, then why not put that on the list instead? At least Gorgeist is not the one in the line that can evolve further.
Gorgeist isn't any better than Pumpkaboo, huh? Phantom Force, Focus Blast, all around better stats no matter what size it is. Doesn't sound like too much of a difference, but Pumpkaboo's base stat total is 335 compared to Gorgeist's 494. Big fucking difference!
Not only that, but the name Pumpkaboo sounded so uncreative, along with its attack called Trick or Treat. They may as well have given it an attack called Smell My Feet as well. However, I still enjoyed the design of these two Pokemon. Gorgeist's pumpkin face is awesome, and the fact that you can get them in different sizes is cool as well.
Speaking of sizes, supersized Gorgeist has strategies for OU. But remember, it's city, so it's number 1. Actually, scratch that. The pre-evolved form is number 1.
Now if only it was useful. Oh well, maybe next time we'll get an awesome ghost-type Pokemon.
Ahem! Ahem!
Until then, I'll be sticking with my Gengar.
Also, I fail to see how even Pumpkaboo is any worse than Dedenne or Vivillon. It has a good move pool even before evolving, enough to give it use as a support mon or as a physical attacker depending on its size. Also, the hoop of trading to evolve it really isn't that bad of a hoop to jump through. I fail to see how Pumpkaboo is any worse than Dedenne or Vivillon, much less number 1 on this list. Oh wait, that's right, it's because your bias is showing! I told you to cover up, damn it!
That about wraps up our top 10 least favorite X and Y Pokemon. But the fun doesn't have to stop here. We've also made a top 10 worst Elite Four members list in a similar vein on Brandon's channel.
Any bets on how painful that video is gonna be?
You'd have to pay me to touch that one.
You can click right here to go watch it now. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to click here to subscribe for more Pokemon videos every week. See ya!
I get the feeling Professor Sycamore would be very disappointed.
Why can't I die?
Maybe it's Telopony.
Oh my fucking god. How do you have fans? How are you popular? This video is so shittily argued. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if people who didn't know who you are would assume that you're the laughingstock of the Countdown community. Being absolutely honest, Meta could have done better. It's laughable that even someone like me could see the flaws every time you tried to argue competitive shit. And guess what? I personally don't like the competitive scene, so you know you suck at explaining when I outclass you with my Pokemon knowledge. Then there's the shoddy editing. Learn to word, learn to use better images, and learn to act. And finally, keep your ideology out of your videos. You're not intelligent enough to argue anything related to it.
Newsflash, 2 top 5 lists do not make a top 10 list. Would Sylveon be number 10 or number 9? Would it be better or worse than Dedenne? Did you not see the inherent problem with this format? Oh wait, I already know the answer to that question given that this fucking video was made like it was. This is why you two really should have just made your own solo countdown lists, even if they just would have been top 5s. Even throwing that off to the side, your ordering of the mons made no fucking sense. How does Diggersby, a mon with out-of-battle utility and in-battle potential as a physical attacker, rank worse than Avalugg? How is Pumpkaboo worse than Dedenne? How did Sylveon even make this fucking list? You know, there's a difference between presenting opinions and being just plain biased. The fact that we all took apart your arguments for why all these mons were on this list should show you how crappy this list was. Also, I'm in a similar camp that Zerarick's in. I don't give a fuck about the competitive Pokemon circuit, and I still did a better job explaining the problems of some of the mons on this list than you two did. I understand that people have different tastes in Pokemon, but if your argument's crap, your argument's crap. Seriously, the both of you need to put more thought into this kind of list.
You know, for what's basically a collab double top 5, Tamashi and Brandon shared no chemistry. Here's how it went. Tamashi segment, then Brandon segment, then Tamashi, then Brandon. Tamashi, Brandon, SpongeBob. Never once did one mention anything about the other's choices, so it really makes the disconnect between the two that much more apparent. It begs the question of why we need that top 10 when both of you could have easily done your own individual top 5s and achieved the same result. Hey, your opinions never intersected, so why not? Even if that was an issue, it's not like anyone would be able to call Tamashi out in her comment section. If we were going to go get collaboration efforts, take the time to actually collaborate between each other, not separately. As for the list itself, it was a complete mess. On top of the failed collaboration issue, the reasons were different levels of bullshit, ranging from okay hitting abilities to fucking jumping the gun. Tamashi, I've previously done commentaries on 2 of your lists before, but I can safely say this was the worst. Because hey, at least I could see the occasional decent point in those. As for Brandon, you made that worst starters list, no you.